10 News reporter Nick Way was one of the first Western journalists on the ground in Padang. He joins us now from the disaster zone. Nick, you're right there in the middle of the destruction. Describe what you're seeing.
Ron, what we've seen here overnight is a heart-wrenching display of desperation, hope and despair. The hotel behind me has really become the epicentre of a lot of the despair of this earthquake. The Hotel Ambichang, there are more than 100 bodies inside that building. Now, we went in there, we came here about midnight last night. The rescue effort had been going for hours and hours. We saw 6 bodies being pulled out. We saw a woman's hand protruding from the concrete and giant bulldozers and loaders going in there trying, and people carrying body bags in and carrying bodies out. A terrible sight, one of great despair.
Nick, this is just one scene. How widespread is the damage?
Well, Ron, we were coming in from the airport last night, heading towards this point here. The airport's 24 kilometres out, and we started seeing damage about 10 kilometres from the airport, so it certainly seems to be at least a 20-kilometre radius. The damage seems to be random, but most buildings of 2 to 3 stories and more have gone over. We saw lots of power out, people burning tyres along the road just to get some light into their lives, and people huddled around these fires, and huge queues. It was taking 3 hours for people to get a bottle of petrol for their motorbikes. Huge queues all over the place.
Nick, the United Nations is putting the death toll at this stage at around 1,100 people. Would you expect that to go much higher?
Well, I think that is going to be conservative, especially judging by what we've seen here at the Hotel Ambichang. The sheer devastation here. We've seen 5, 6, 7-storey buildings just leaning over like packs of cards, and I fear that the death toll could reach 2,000 or 3,000. That's only my guess from spending a night here with the rescue teams.
This is no delicate rescue effort, but a desperate race to find survivors who may be still alive in air pockets beneath the rubble. It's thought that hundreds, if not thousands, are trapped. But as the hours pass, it's the dead rather than the living that emerge. This is the remains of a school. Students were taking an evening class when the quake struck. Many of the children are missing.
Sites like this across the city, there's an ever-growing sense of dread. Time is running out, especially for those still buried here, those 80 or so people still beneath the rubble of the Ambichang Hotel.
These 2 surfers were about to book into the Ambichang, but decided it was too expensive. Their tight budget probably saved their lives.
A human wave of panic, and that's where we just ran. We literally ran 7 kilometres away.
How scary was it?
Scale of 1 to 10, about 15.
The fate of those beneath the rubble may rest with the skills of dog handler Biggie Lewinsky and her German shepherd Timmy.
If we find life, then we will go further manually.
New Zealander Mike Boyce was separated from his wife and 2-year-old son.
Thrown out of my seat, very violent, watching vehicles being lifted off the road with the force of it.
He was convinced they were dead, but after 3 hours of desperate searching amid the chaos and panic of Padang, he found them alive. President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono has visited the centre of the destruction, promising more medical teams and more equipment. There are occasional moments to lift the hearts of rescuers. Here, a man is found under a collapsed building, waiting patiently for the masonry pinning him down to be dragged away. A second quake rocked the area south of Padang on Thursday. This is the coastal town of Pariaman. House after house has collapsed. 8 surfing mates from the Gold Coast were still on the water when the first quake hit. They've only now managed to contact relatives.
Yeah, it was pretty scary because we weren't sure when he was in Padang, like whether he came back, a couple of days ago, or we didn't really know.
The Foreign Minister says about 250 Australians are in the region. 100 have not been heard from, and he wants relatives back home to make contact and pass the information on to the Department of Foreign Affairs.
That'll help us reduce the number of Australians currently unaccounted for.
Padang is home to more than 1 million people. They're used to the threat of earthquakes, but nothing had prepared them for the devastation that shook their world to its foundations. In Padang, Nick Way, 10 News.